Coaching, I did it my whole life, loved it, but I always thought there were certain things are more important. And that kind of kept me going all the time. When I was in Green Bay, as an example, I was asked a number of times, I know the pressure of coaching, it must be just get to you after a while. And I said, you know what? I really love my job and I love teaching. I love coaching. That's not it. But in Wisconsin, as an example,
Yeah.
honestly, I felt responsible for the mood of the entire state because that whole state is involved with the Packers. And that was the thing that I would think about every once in a while. And that was a little harder. The coaching part of it, I could handle.
Hi, I'm Riley,
And I'm Ryder.
and this is
my
my dad's show.
And I'm Casey Jaycox, the host of the Quarterback Dadcast. Everybody, I started this podcast to truly understand how I can be a better father myself. I did it because I wanted to learn from dads just like you. I wanted to learn how you were raised. I wanted to learn what your current family looks like. I wanted to understand what you learned from your parents now that you're a dad. I also want to learn what you did not learn from your parents. I wanted to understand how your parents helped you. And lastly, with all that information, how are you using it with those experiences to become that ultimate leader or quarterback of your household? I am more than fired up. Now, Mr. Greg Olson is the offensive coordinator of the Oakland Raiders.
And people say, well, what did football teach you? Well, it teaches you a lot about discipline and teamwork, and you have to be a little bit of a better father. Twice a year, we huddle my family up. I say, come on, we're getting a huddle. Everybody get in a huddle here.
I love it.
And let's talk about where we're at right now and what the plan is going forward over the next 6 months. As the father, look at myself as the quarterback of my family.
Our next guest is the voice of the Seattle Mariners, Rick Riz.
Yeah, that was a story of my life. We had
Wow.
a sandlot behind my house. My dad would come out there after a long day of work and play baseball with us. He coached. He also painted all the fence signs for the sponsors. He painted all those signs. He painted the logos of all our teams, and he even umpired some games.
After listening to each episode, I'm sure you will laugh. You might even cry, but you will definitely learn something from other dads. I guarantee that you will walk away with actionable tasks that you can apply to your life right now to become that ultimate quarterback or leader of your household.
Renzo Romar is the head coach at Pepperdine. He's married with 3 daughters, and today we're going to gain wisdom from him.
When someone that we coached comes back and has their kids with them, tell coach what I tell you all the time, and he'll say something that we used to tell his dad. When you see that they're successful and they want to share that success with you, that's more important than any wins and losses to me.
So sit back, relax, and subscribe now to the Quarterback Dadcast. All right, everybody, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast. This is Casey Jaycox. We are at the start of season 7, and I could not be more excited to bring our next guest on. And you might have heard of him. He spent time at USC, but that's probably not. Maybe you heard of him if you're a hardcore Trojan. Fight on. He met his wife, I believe, at age 12, which I have that in common if I have my info right. He spent time with the San Francisco 49ers, the Green Bay Packers from 1992 to 1998, the Seattle Seahawks, my squad, from 1999 to 2008. Went to the Browns. He's also a 2026 finalist for the Hall of Fame, which he's going to get my vote. He spent time with some people you might have heard of, guys like Steve Young, Brett Favre, Joe Montana, and Matty Hasselbeck. But more importantly, that's not why we're having this gentleman on. We're having Coach Mike Holmgren on to learn about how he's working hard to become, or has worked hard to become, that ultimate quarterback or leader of his household. So without further ado, Coach Mike Holmgren, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Casey, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. And when I heard you were going to give me a shot, I got excited myself. So you know why? You know why? Because and you said it. Coaching, I did it my whole life, loved it, but I always thought there were certain things are more important, and that kind of kept me going all the time.
Well, it's you had a heck of a run, and we got to give love to the one and only Richard Fain for making today's episode possible. So Dickie Fain, thank you, sir. But Coach, we always start out each episode with gratitude. So tell me, what are you most grateful for as a dad or grandfather today?
Well, today, particularly around Christmas time, as we're talking, I get a chance to be with family.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 daughters, 9 grandkids, and a beautiful wife of 54 years. and we get a chance to be together. For years, Casey, I missed, and I've said this, I miss stuff because you work crazy hours when you're coaching, and now since I've stopped, and actually during the time, I always tried to put family first if possible, and that's I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the people in my church growing up. As a little kid, they prayed for me. They kept praying for me the whole way. And so I appreciate that.
Love it. Well, what I'm grateful for is I similar answer. I got the family home. I have a 19-year-old son in college. He plays golf in college, and my 17-year-old daughter, she's a senior in high school. We got a high school basketball game tonight, so I'm grateful I get to go watch her compete. And it's fun having all the crew at the house. And my son is like a psychotic Seahawks fan, almost like we may need therapy. Like he reminds me of myself when because I know like when I had a bad day at work, I don't think you guys cared when you guys were coaching the Hawks, but God, when you guys would lose, it'd be like my wife's like, "Hey, settle down." I'm
You
like, "I
know,
know, but I love them so much."
and I understood that when I was in Green Bay, as an example. I was asked a number of times. I know the pressure of coaching, it must be just get to you after a while. And I said, you know what? I really love my job and I love teaching. I love coaching. That's not it. But in Wisconsin, as an example,
Yeah.
honestly, I felt responsible for the mood of the entire state because that whole state is involved with the Packers. And that was the thing that I would think about every once in a while. And that was a little harder. The coaching part of it, I could handle.
hmm Yeah, I can't even imagine that how to weigh on you, but you did it and you did it well. And I think even before we record, I mentioned we spoke last week. I was one of the coolest moments of my fan life is you coached a former teammate of mine, John Kitna, and I watched you guys play at your return to Monday night in Lambeau. And what a fantastic! I think Hawks got the win that night too.
Yeah, yeah, we did. That was, there's certain things you work for a long time or coach for a long time. You don't remember everything, but that night,
hmm
it was my first time going back to Green Bay. Um, my kids had gone to school and were going to school in Chicago, and um, I said, and they'd always come up to the games in Green Bay. I said, don't, I don't want you to come to this game. I'm not sure how they're going to react to me, and I don't want you there. If it's, you know, sketchy, I don't want you there. But I will say this: I walked onto the field, and a few people teased me a little bit, but all in all, they were wonderful. I mean, the fans are there are wonderful, and uh, and John played a really fine football game. We won the football game, and we got off to a pretty good start.
So cool. Yeah, the thing that blew me away about Lambeau was just walking up to the game and like walking through a neighborhood, and there was like I remember vividly a empty semi trailer in a guy's front yard with furniture and extension cords to the house, and they were like that was they couldn't get seats. They're like, we're gonna pretend we're at Lambeau. We're gonna sit in this trailer, tailgate outside my front yard in a semi. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, they're the fans. They on occasion and in the parking lot, if you remember, everyone's cooking something. There's barbecues
Oh
going
yeah.
everywhere. And the head of public relations for the Packers, after not long after I was there, said, after the games, why don't you just walk through the crowd and then just, that'd be really cool. Well, I did. Okay, I said, oh, okay, I'll try that. I was unaware of what would happen. And then I went through and I couldn't get 10 feet without having a hot dog given to me or a beer or whatever they were doing. And so I realized, well, as much as that'd be fun, I can't do that. So I tried it one time. That was it.
You need to ride home.
That's right.
Well, bring me inside the core huddle of you and I believe your wife's name's Kathy.
Yes.
So you and Kathy talk about your daughters. What was life like growing up for them, and what was like things that lighted them up.
Well, I have four girls, and one's an attorney, one's a doctor, and two teachers. So
Wow.
yeah, they're doing great. And when they were little, we had the twins first, And then Emily came 4 years later, and then Gretchen 4 years after that. But I was a high school coach and teacher in San Francisco at a school, Sacred Heart. And as much as I love that, I was only making $600 a month. And in our apartment or the house we rented was like $300, and my car was 100. So we had to. It was financially, it was tough in the beginning, but the kids, they were awesome. And Kathy was a nurse, had been a nurse for a long time, and to supplement whatever we do to help us get through the week, she was working like one night a week, and so that was the start. And they went everywhere with us. We have the good fortune of having a cabin in the Santa Cruz Mountains. That's between San Francisco and Carmel for those people who know California a little bit. And it's in a Christian conference center, and that's where our summers were. And you saw them grow up. I taught them to swim, all that kind of stuff. And so as they grew up, then they got very interested in football and what was happening. They go to the games all the time. And no, it was I appreciated them so much to the point where we reached a point sometime at the cabin years later. I was doing things with the grandkids, and Kathy said, "You know, you're really with the grandkids a lot." I said, "I think I'm trying to make up for lost time
Mm.
because with my own children and coaching, I'd missed some things that I would have enjoyed going to sports
Yeah.
events, things they were involved with, and uh, and one of the girls came over to me, one of the older ones, and said, 'Dad, we knew you don't have to apologize for anything. We knew
Yeah.
you'd rather be home with us.'" And so that was the atmosphere around our house. We had dinner together. That was kind of a thing. Everyone had their own places to sit. How's your day? Everyone got to voice their opinion. And now that they're older, sometimes I regret that I let them voice their opinion because now they have a lot of opinions on what I do.
Right.
But no, we had a great start, and everyone was healthy, and it was a good start for us.
Very cool. Well, and I think what you said, right, it's going to speak to a dad at home because you don't need to be an NFL coach to have that feeling of whether you're traveling, whether you got to go to a big meeting and you miss something and you just that. I mean, we're all human. We feel that guilt or whatever you want to say. It's like, oh God, I wish I could be there. And I mean, I'm going to experience it this year. I'm going to miss two of my daughter's basketball games because I do like executive coaching and I speak at like conferences and I didn't mean to do that. Kind of like this job found me, but it's like ugh,
Yeah.
I got to do it, and there's other stuff I've said no to, so I appreciate you said that's gonna I think speak to people. Did I have my research correct? Did you and Kathy meet at age 12?
Yeah, we did actually in this place. It
Okay.
was called Mission Springs. It's a covenant church, is the church we go to, and it's a conference center. It has probably 105 leaseholders. The church owns the land. You own the house. But the summer camping for kids, and in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, the kids would come there for the summer. A lot of kids, and a lot of people met their spouses there. They,
Hmm.
you know, they. So anyway, Kathy was there, and she's the cutest girl on campus. And I was afraid, but yeah, that's when we met. And she says that I proposed when we were 13. I don't quite remember the exact details of that, but she said, no, we're 13. So I was crushed. But then 10 years later, we wound up getting married when we had both graduated from college.
Very cool. Well, I never thought I would say I got something in common with Coach Holmgren other than we both played quarterback back in the day. It's an Uncle Rico moment right there. But my wife, me and my wife have been together 27 years. We met at age 12 in seventh grade
Yeah.
and started dating. She doesn't think we dated in eighth grade. I thought we did, but yeah, we went to separate college. I went to Central, where I met John, and then my wife went to UW, and we got married. Literally, my last year of playing was fall of '98, and then we got married in February, and
Wow.
been married ever since. And
Well, that's the interesting thing because it's similar. Kathy went to school in Chicago. at
Yeah.
North Park University, and I went to school in Los Angeles. So for 4 or 5 years, we'd see each other in the summer then.
Hmm.
And back there at the summer as we got older. And then after she graduated, she went to Africa as a nurse for a year. And I had my
Wow.
pro football thing, tryout and all that for a year. And then when she came back, that's when we got married. So we had been apart for a long time and we each did our own thing for a while. But then it worked out well for me. She kind of saved me. She's really good. I'm kind of a knucklehead at times. So it was good that we hooked up.
Well, I always call this podcast I've been doing now for we're on 7 years, and I can't believe. I mean, it was just a fun project, and it's now it's a way that I always joke with people, but I mean it. It's like free therapy for me as a dad. It helps me stay grounded, helps me stay curious, helps me be a better listener, and it's just crazy this journey's on because we're all of us are dads trying to be our best version of
Sure.
ourselves. And one question I was going to ask that I always like asking people is like, talk about what was life like growing up for you and the impact that mom and dad had on you.
Yeah, I grew up I'm Swedish and Swedish heritage. I'll start with my grandparents. They came over from Sweden, and my father was the only child. And they came to San Francisco. They'd been involved in the Salvation Army, and they bought a home. And then they started the Swedish American Bakery in San Francisco, which
Mm.
was not a huge bakery, but a very popular place. At Christmas time, I remember there were lines down the street to get in there and buy what they were making there. And we lived upstairs in a little apartment above the bakery. And baker's hours are worse than football hours. They're opening up at 3 and baking the stuff. And at any rate, we were there, and I have a brother and two sisters. Uh, And so we had 4 kids, and my mom and dad, we were very involved in the church in San Francisco, the Covenant Church. And I what I remember is that we there wasn't a lot, but you didn't know that. We didn't know. I didn't know the financial situation of the family. There was just a lot of love, and people cared one another, and you knew that. With that having said, my dad was a very big guy. He's one of the first football linemen of big size.
Mm.
He's 6'3", about 290,
Wow.
and they called him Tiny when he played. And he was firm with me, with his sons. And unfortunately, he passed away at 48, and
Mm.
never got to see his grandkids very much, but. And my mom was a beautiful woman, and there's just a lot of love in the family, and you knew that, you felt that as
Mm.
as a kid growing up in that family.
How did your dad pass? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, of course, they didn't know as much as they know about hearts in those days, so he had a heart attack. Originally, he had a heart attack, and at the age of 15, I drove him to the hospital. Uh,
Wow.
and then 10 years later, or about 10 years later, then he had the second heart attack, and that was it. Um, but he was just a big, big guy. He probably, they didn't have the stuff they do now. If they had it now, he would have lasted longer. But that's what happened.
How did Pops feel as a lineman letting his son play quarterback?
Well, he was, he was at every high school game I had. He went down to USC to all the games, and um, he just, I remember it distinctly. This is after when I got cut finally from the New York Jets. He picked me up at the airport when I flew home from New York, and I said because he was such a good fan and so encouraging to me about everything in sports while not being overbearing.
Mm.
Um, and I told him, I'm sorry, I didn't make it. He goes, "Hey, you did everything you could. Thank you." And it was just one of those things. So
Yeah.
there was no big pressure, but I knew that they loved going to the football games. My grandparents went with them, the people from Sweden,
Love
to
it.
the high school games. and they had to tell my grandma which number I was. Who is he? Which one is he? You know? And they said the tall one. He's the tall one out there.
That's so funny. Was when football came to an end for you as a player, was it harder on you or your dad?
Uh, I think it was harder on me. It took me a while. He just enjoyed every minute of it and was proud of me. And things happen and injuries or whatever happens, and then it didn't work out. I thought I was going to be an NFL star, you know. And I went to USC. I thought I was going to be kind of in the movies too, you know. So, but when none of that happened, then all of a sudden, what do I do now? That's what I went through.
Hmm.
My life goal was to do these other things. That didn't happen. So what do I do now? So I went through a time there of searching, I would say, about what's next.
Yeah, it's. I asked that question because like when I got done, um, it was like almost like a relief. I got teased in the Arena League. I had a chance to go play overseas, and I was like, I was thinking I was ready to just make business my next football. And
Yeah.
I remember like when I got done our last game, I came back and it was me, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and my guard, my tackle, and my running back, and we went to a bar, grab a beer, and I remember just like it hit me. I was like, and I like cried for like probably 45 minutes,
Well,
and it was like I'm done.
yeah.
And I remember my dad, I think it was really hard on him. And my dad, too, he passed away December 29th, 2021. So we're coming up on his anniversary. And, uh, but like, the thing that I remember about him is, you know, every game. And he almost bankrupted himself my senior year in college, going to these random towns and, you know, watching us play. Even when I was a freshman, John's senior year, I was just the number three. So all I did
Yeah.
was warm up and then signal
Yeah.
and be a goof off to Kitna. And my dad flew down to Texas to watch them in the playoffs. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I want to watch you warm up. I'm
Nice.
like, so it's like those are the things that like I, as a dad now, I reflect on that, you know, I love just like trying to create those memories for, um, as you know, you share the story with your dad, made me think of that. What were the values that mom and dad taught that really impacted you in life and later as a dad?
Well, I think they talked a lot about honesty and respecting each other, respecting other people. As I said, we grew up in the church, and so there was some feeling there of you know knowing who Jesus was and how he reacted to people, how what he did for people, and they wanted our lives to be similar. And there was no they were probably if that ever didn't happen on occasion, if for example didn't treat my younger sister the way my father thought I should treat her, then that stopped right then. Boom. Now this is why. And then I listened. I learned to listen, which was
Hmm.
probably a good thing. And no, they just they set a really good example for all of us. Um, he was the chairman of the church. He was the chairman of Mission Springs Conference Center. He was the chairman of the California Real Estate. He was a leader in a lot of things, and really very much a leader at home. And
Mm.
so, but he worked. He was not there all the time because he had all these other things. It reminded me a little bit of what I went through when I got older, as far
Mm.
as with the family. And
Hmm.
so I just tried to be like that with my kids because I believed he did it correctly.
Hmm. Now, did mom work too, or did she stay home?
She stayed home for the most part. She worked as a secretary in medical offices at times, but she stayed home most of the time.
Relating it to honesty and respect. I mean, those are two. I mean, when you said that, I had like stories of my own learnings of my own immaturity growing up. For you, coach, is there a story that really cemented those values to you that maybe you can draw and share this?
Well, I was going through confirmation. You're 13 years old, and in our church, you go through this like a year of teaching and so on and so forth. At the same time, for Christmas one year, my dad gave me a tennis racket for Christmas. and I hadn't played tennis, but so I started hitting the tennis ball. In San Francisco, they have a system, playground system. So districts have playgrounds. And there was West Portal Playground. That's where I hung out with a bunch of guys all the time. There was another one up here. There's all over the city, different diverse groups, but that's where we hung out. And then the system, they would play sports. So you'd play softball, playground system, basketball, playground system, and they played tennis. So my park director gave me I said, I got a new record. He goes, let's try this. So the long and the short of it is I made it to the city championships. And I just had Levi's and a t-shirt. I didn't have any of the cool stuff that John McEnroe wore or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out I'm going through confirmation at the same time. The finals for confirmation or for the tennis was Saturday at Golden Gate Park. If you've ever been to San Francisco, they have a huge tennis facility in the middle of the park. That's where the city championship finals are going to be on Saturday. Well, that was my confirmation day. And so I went to my dad and I said, would you mind talking to the pastor and telling him that I've got this tennis thing I got to go to? And he looks at me and he goes, you're the one playing tennis. You go talk to the pastor. And I knew they were good friends, but I thought it'd be the easy way out. And I said, Dad, come on. He goes, no, you have a talk with him, tell him what it is, and so on and so forth, see what happens. So I go, oh, I don't want to do this. So I went and talked to the pastor, and he had a very deep voice and very, very, very pastoral. And he goes, Michael, Michael, Michael. He goes, I can't tell you what to do. I want you to go home and pray about this and then make your decision. I go, okay, no one's helping me with this.
Right.
So I get home, I tell my dad, he goes, okay, go ahead. I mean, do what you have to do. But it reminded me of a little bit of honesty and then respect I had for the pastor. So I did, and I said, okay, confirmation is important. I got to do this. So I go and tell my playground director. I said, I got to be at church on Saturday. And he goes, what? You're playing for the championship, you can go to church on Sunday. I said, I'm in confirmation. I got to do this. I'm sorry. So, okay, I go back to the playground on Monday afternoon, like I always did. And I go up to him and go, who won that thing? And he goes, the city commissioner, they had a little vote and meeting. They moved your championship game to this next Thursday.
Nice.
You can play in it. I go, wow. It was an answer to prayer.
Wow.
So, but then I go to the championship game and I'm playing against the guy who was a country club guy. He had the white outfit on, the white tennis shoes. I had rackets. I had my one racket in my hand and my Levi's. And the guy who was the referee, I remember, came up to me and goes, I don't know if you have much of a chance in this one. And he was right. It was 6-0, 2 sets. He beat me 6-0, but then it was 7-6. I came back in the second one.
Nice.
Almost beat him. So, but that's a story. That's a crazy story about I respected my father and I respected the pastor, and they were very honest with me. And it ended kind of the way I hoped it would end, but I didn't think it would.
Yeah. Oh, what a cool story. So now I have this vision, and I don't know if the quarterbacks you coached, coach, but like most of the quarterbacks I know, we have a screw loose and goofy, just real goofy. And so like, and as you're saying that, I got this vision in my head, and you in like, jean shorts, Levi's, frayed, and this guy's in like just all white, tight, got a headband, afro, wristbands, maybe some goggles.
We had them all.
So good. As you think about like your journey as a coach, and you mentioned this in the beginning, we kicked off about, sometimes you had to miss things. Um, Maybe talk about just the mindset as like being present as a coach, but also being present as a dad when you had to kind of flip the switch.
Well, yeah, and I think when I have talked to young coaches or had an opportunity to talk at different clinics and things like that, sometimes this comes up, and I think it's a good opportunity too. I go to work, and when I was at work, I was at work, and I committed that. I thought to be the best teacher I could be, to be the best coach I could be, and to help these kids, and then later on the big little kids be the best they can be. That was my job. And so I was committed and focused on that. Having said that, then when I'd go home, I switched gears and I was able to do that. I think I was able to do that. If Kathy was part of this thing and you asked her, I think she would say that too.
Hmm.
So I said we all sat down for dinner at a certain time and it just switched over. So I thought it was very important to be the father at home, not necessarily the coach at home. And to this day, the kids talk about that. And I told you earlier that I did miss some things and I had to be gone sometimes.
Hmm.
But they knew, and they told me this. They knew if I had a choice they, that I'd like to be at. They knew I'd want to be at their tennis match or their game or whatever, and I would go when I could. But early on, I learned that, and I tried to do that. As you well know, the pro hours are it's kind of crazy, actually.
Yeah.
You know, the week schedule, Monday I wouldn't get home till 11 o'clock at night, Tuesday 11 o'clock at night, Wednesday 9 o'clock at night, Thursday I got home for dinner, Friday I got home for dinner. But then if you traveled with the 49ers, you left on Friday, so I was gone 3 days, had one night for dinner with the kids, then you're gone and you're back at it on Monday, and you do that. You miss Thanksgiving, you miss Christmas, you miss all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but having said that, I tried, and they
Yeah.
knew I was trying.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, now coaches have FaceTime, they got Zoom, they got all
Right.
these tools. Back then, you had a phone with a long cord.
That's right. I mean, it was a lot of things had changed, and that's certainly one of them. And now we didn't have computers doing stuff then.
Mm.
I remember getting a game ready, and you had Super 8 film, and I
Oh,
had
yeah.
to learn how to splice it together, do stuff. And now you look at a game, and they have. For years, I was on the competition committee. They didn't want any electronics. They didn't want any electronics. Now I see everyone has one of those iPads on the field,
iPads. Yeah.
on the sideline. So things have changed.
Yeah. And it's even getting down to even high school level. I mean, I have buddies I played with that they're high school coaches. They have iPads on the high school. I'm like,
Yeah. Oh
what?
no, I know, I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
How, a lot of the episodes I've had on with dads, we talk about youth sports and which has at times gotten crazy with, there's a lot of great things through sports. I mean, I'm so grateful for what sports taught me. I'm grateful for the journey my kids have enjoyed sports. But as a parent, sometimes we find ourselves really wrapped up. Um, as you reflect back on the games or events that your daughters were involved with, like maybe talk about what sports they played and how did you balance being dad versus NFL coach?
Yeah, it's the girls. People ask me all the time, "Are you disappointed you had girls?" Because you wanted a football player. I said, "No, I love having girls." And what I told the girls, because people would talk to them about it too. I said, and I'd gather them up. We'd get together, and I said, "Okay, now listen, you're going to get these questions. Here's how we're going to do this. You think about it, but choose something. I would like you to be active after school, but choose something you love. Choose something you want to do, not for me, for you." So they wind up playing soccer, field hockey, in sports, tennis. Um, and I was able to go to those games because they were it was kind of in the off season, and I had a little better time schedule, and it was fun for me. The thing that would bother me on occasion, and you maybe have seen this, is you have parents that look at this really differently. That you get them getting a little emotional, a little bit. I said, you're putting too much in my mind. I didn't say to the person, you're putting a lot of pressure on that young person there. You know, they're young, they're learning. Part of this learning is not only being a good field hockey player or your best field hockey player you can be, but also a teammate, a good sport, with the other team. All those kinds of lessons that I think sports teaches you.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to do that. But as you pointed out, now my grandchildren, my kids' children, they didn't used to have things on Sunday. They didn't have, now they have, that's a big deal. And they used to have things mainly tied in with the school. Now they have club sports and things that you not only play, but you travel. I mean, travel distances to
It's
go
crazy.
play. So it's changed now. But what I've tried to instill in my kids, and I think what they've tried to instill in their children, is the things we talked about. Sportsmanship, you know, if you get knocked down, get back up, learning those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very proud of the way that I haven't been able to see many things with them. Lately, I've been seeing the grandkids a fair amount. So that's kind of fun. But in the past, when I'd walk in to see my youngest daughter, play basketball, as an example, in Green Bay, I had to come in after the game started and sit way up in the corner because otherwise I became a distraction.
Sure. I can
You
only
know?
imagine.
Yeah. So you learn to deal with that too. And she knew I'd have to talk to her. This is what I have to do. And she got it.
Did your daughters, well, we're going to give love to Grandpa Tiny. Did they get any of his toughness or your toughness or maybe from Kathy?
I think they did. They did.
My daughter plays hoop. She's 5'4", maybe 5'5" in the program, maybe not, but scrappier than hell and feisty. And I always tell her, like, I get inspired watching you. Like
Yeah.
you're not as tall, and she's actually going to go play basketball, right? I played football at Central Washington,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is like the coolest. Selfishly for me, it's like I can't. If you'd have told me years ago, because I got hurt my senior in high school, didn't play football, kind of impacted where I was ended up playing. Got a chance to play at Central, thankfully, and then. But if you'd have told me back then, hey, you got hurt, yeah, that ruined
Yeah.
you. Actually, best thing ever happened to me. Then you're going to play football, and your daughter's going to be there in 30-something years. I'd be like, what? How's that going to happen?
No, I know.
Um,
That sounds so cool. And it's fun. I mean, as you get older,
Mm.
like I said, I was accused of trying to make up time with my grandkids, but it is fun for me. It really is.
I think it's a great thing you're doing that. That's like an ultimate compliment, I think, when I hear that. How is it watching grandkids play sports?
Oh, well, I try to be quiet. I try to be encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have four grandsons, five granddaughters. All the grandsons tried football, and little by little they've kind of one's a senior in high school, two are seniors in high school, but it didn't work for them. I mean, they played, they loved it. I think part of it, I think they tried to play because they're not big guys. They tried to play, I think they won't admit this, because of me, because
Sure.
I should do this because Grandpa played. And when I watch them play, I thought they did fine. I thought they did well. But maybe the coaches, it's different now, and so it didn't hit. But then
Yeah.
then they go into something else. They go into soccer, or they go into music, or they pick something that you love, and then that'll carry you. You'll carry that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think a lot of dads unfortunately make that mistake. A lot of parents, and I was guilty of it. Sometimes you're trying to create this, like, you want to protect them, you want to make it perfect, you want to help them, but it's like that's how you don't help them, by doing all those things. And you have to
Correct.
let them, you have to celebrate mistakes. You have to, because all the mistakes I made, you have some bad ones. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like,
Yeah.
just like an interception, you watch films. Like, what were you doing? I didn't mean to throw the cover too flat. My bad. That's on me.
One quick story. Gretchen, who was my youngest, who's a prosecuting attorney in King County, and so she's tough,
Oh
and
yeah.
she always was. But the first time the things I got to watch her play T-ball. You know what T-ball is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and she was the youngest kid on the team. So I got to see her play, and it was a playoff game or something. And I'm standing next to a writer, the sports writer who covered the 49ers, Mark Purdy for the San Francisco newspapers. And his daughter was playing, so we were talking. Well, Gretchen gets up in the last out in the inning. They're down by one. There's 3 men, bases are loaded. She's up. And T-ball. Um, no, it wasn't T-ball. She had graduated from T-ball, so it was pitching. At any rate, she strikes out, and everyone jumps up and down. Fortunately, her teammates go over to her and console her. The coach did. It was very nice. She comes and she's not going to show anybody any emotion. She gets about 10 feet away from me, walking over to me, and just starts crying her eyes out.
Mm,
And I did too.
yeah.
I said, "Oh, I know this feeling. I know you're feeling right now." So and Mark Purdy he was great too. He's in the Writers Hall of Fame down there, and we hugged for a while, and then we just didn't say anything. Got in the car, then started talking about you know how much how important it was for her to do this and be strong and try, and the outcome, heck, we're past that right now. Let's go get an ice cream cone or something. And I forget what I said, but uh, you go through those emotional things, and I think it's important when it happens that you think about, maybe you reflect back on some of the lessons your parents taught you,
Mhm.
and hopefully there's a carryover there, and hopefully then now I know there's a carryover with Gretchen as an example, and her young kids.
Yeah. Well, you hit on something that we've talked about a lot with other dads. Have you ever came across the gentleman by the name of Coach Bruce Brown?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
So he's a local guy, been around a long time. He's been spent time with John Wooden, Dick
Oh,
Vermeil, who else? Um, just a couple that come to mind. But he wrote an article and spoke at many of these big coaching conferences on the car ride home. And he
good call.
interviewed thousands of high school, college pro athletes, and they said that the number one answer of frustration was the car ride home, because mom and dad used to always just light them up,
Right.
and the people they loved watching them play was grandma and grandpa, because grandma and grandpa would always say, "Man, I love watching you play."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with this article, and the advice he gives is, he kind of challenges us, if your kid cares and it's what they want to do and what they're about to do and what they let them bring it up to you. It's kind of like when you have let's say you had a bad day at coaching, or I had a bad day in business. And I made this joke before, like my kids, when they were 6 and 7, aren't going to say, "Hey dad, you usually type 43 words a minute. You seem like you're down a little bit. And that voicemail you left at 10:45 really sucked. That was not your normal good business acumen." Like they wouldn't say that, but we get them in the car as the
Yeah.
seniority person, just get on them, because we have this expectation that they're supposed to do all these great things. Well, that's their life.
Yeah.
And it was such a powerful thing that I read, that I've shared multiple times with people. And I hope if there's someone listening that's never heard of it, they'll research it, and I can even link it in the show notes. But it's amazing when you just say, "Hey man, love watching you play, love watching you compete. Try
I
your
know.
best."
I know. I know. To me, that makes too much sense, and maybe it's from the disappointments I had in my own playing career. Like you said, you were hurt your senior year. Same thing happened in my senior year at USC.
Mm,
That we were going to play Nebraska. The week before, for some reason, we had a scrimmage. And in those days, the quarterbacks got hit. They didn't wear red jerseys. and my own guy hit me, blows out my shoulder, and I'm the
Mm.
starting quarterback. And then I missed my senior year because of that. And so then you try and overcome, get up off the ground, overcome. Then it didn't happen. So those are little lessons, I think, not little, but they're big lessons I learned from my dad. And hopefully it allowed me to get on to the next step
Yeah.
and then teach my children that.
What did your injury teach you?
Uh, well, I was so disappointed. I sat in the training room and the coach came up to me and I started crying. I said, I've worked so hard for this. This was my time. Why? Why?
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to say. But what it taught me is that you will have lessons in life. How you handle
Hmm.
disappointment is is a huge part of, I think, how you develop and move on. And so that was one of the big ones for me right there. But as I said, and then Kathy was really helpful in helping me recover mentally. But I think that was the thing I took away. I was crushed. But then I go, okay, now what am I going to do?
Hmm.
And so,
Yeah, you mean it's like goosebumps when you're saying that because it's like I remember it like yesterday. I'll be 50 this year, and my I was getting like low D2 D3 guy, and then I went to the University of Washington football camp because my buddy was getting recruited by him. Well, I go and end up winning quarterback of the camp, and I was shocked that like they announced my name. I'm like, wait,
nice.
what? You got the same guy? What the hell? How's this happen? Well, then they're like, all of a sudden, like, hey, you're on our radar. We're going to come to your games, do all these things. And I was like, wait, what? Oh my God, a UW. This is my cousin played for UW back in the 80s. And so then I'm like, this is great. Well, same thing. Fast forward to that last play of a jamboree. I break my foot in 4 spots. I have surgery 2 hours later. The guy I beat out my junior year. He was playing tight end for us. He has to go in and play quarterback. World moves on, coach.
Yep.
He would set our single season passing yardage record. He would be named second team all league, and he would um, take us to state playoffs first time in 20 years.
Wow.
And I had to watch.
I know.
And I say the best thing ever happened to me because, like Kathy and my wife Carrie, super supportive. I remember crying, feeling sorry for myself. But
Yeah.
my high school football coach, a guy named Marty Osborne, I actually had him on the show back a few years ago just to thank him because I remember going to him and I said, I'm miserable. This is the worst freaking day of my life. And he's like, I'm hoping Shane plays bad. I hope you guys stink. I'm thinking the worst things possible. I need help. And I remember he just looked at me and goes, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, how could you be proud of what I just told you?
Yeah.
He's like, because you're asking for help. And this is what vulnerability is about.
Right.
And he goes, you know this playbook better than me. Why don't you go up in the booth, help me call plays? I was like, wait, what? And I became like a quarterback coach. And I was like, it was like a vacuum. I get goosebumps telling the story. You get the vacuum sucked all that energy out of me. Now I had purpose. Now I had belief. Now I had someone like, and I was back. And so I love now that my kids are older. I've shared that story with them because that's why this word behind me, everybody, it's belief. I think it's one thing
Believe.
that parents don't do enough of is teaching belief. Like believe before you do anything, believe in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's that's a great story. Good for you.
Yeah, it's I still remember it like yesterday. And yeah, I was the 12th quarterback at walk on at Central. I remember calling Dick Baird. Any of you know that name?
Oh, I know, Dick. Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember he was recruiting me and my other buddy named Kevin Childs, and I just called him. I left him a voicemail. I said, hey, if you could do anything, I'm not going to walk on at UW. I was like going to be a preferred walk on for them. I said, just my high school football coach played at Central. I think it's a better spot for me. I'll have a chance to play early, and if you could just put in a good work because I had no film,
Yeah.
none, and then slowly start chipping away. End up being a 2.5 year starter at
Good.
but yeah, and it's like the memories I had, the buddies I made. Even this podcast was started from my receiver. Shout out to Ty Nunez, who now he's coaching high school. So it's just you remember those things for life. And
Well, then you look back. I think it's important to to look back on some of those things, kind of relive the pain just a little bit, but then it makes you realize how fortunate you are and what that did for you. Look now.
Grounded. Yeah, grounds me.
Yeah. So good for
It
you.
does. Yeah. What as we kind of get ready to wrap up here, as you think about your journey as a dad, this can sometimes be a tough question for people. I always say, what would be an area of your dad game that maybe wasn't where you always wanted it, but as you reflect, or maybe you had to like kind of like watch film and make a couple tweaks, but you're able to kind of improve that might speak to a dad at home struggling with an area of his dad game.
I think it's something we talked about a lot already, but it was the time. And then when I'd come home after, and switching gears, I talked about switching gears to not just that's not just uh talk. It's something I had to be deliberate. Let's just say as an example, we had a poor practice. In anyone, the Seahawks, anybody, poor
Mhm.
practice, or I had to get fired up about something. You come home and to flip the switch, it just couldn't be talk about it. You had to do it. And at times that was very hard. At times it was hard, but it's so important. I thought it was so important to make sure that your kids know that they know the girls knew how stressful and how I had to work.
Mhm.
But then when I came home they had to know that I cared about what they were doing as well, and then to talk about it. And it did two things. One, I think it showed them I loved them. Two, it helped me get over my anger or whatever was there when I walked in the door.
Mhm.
And and then of course you talked about your wife, and then Kathy is she was the superstar. And then we had an interesting thing that we do when I come home from practice. We had a room, uh, kind of a family room type thing. And for the first 5 minutes I was home, I'd go in there and she and I would talk. And the girls knew, okay, that's mom and dad. We got to give them their time. As soon as that was over, the door would open, boom. Then I had to get into what they were doing. But that was kind of a discipline, and it seems kind of quirky, but it really was good for us.
Oh, I can only imagine.
And
Gets you right mentally, I bet.
absolutely, it helped in my transition because my wife's a stud.
Yeah, the good quarterbacks at home, we got great general managers. And the
That's right.
phrase we sounds like we both outkicked our coverage.
That's I've said that many times.
Oh
And
yeah.
people that know her have said that to me many times. So
If you were to summarize what we've talked about, Coach, that maybe in like a theme, two or three themes that dads can take from our conversation today to say, hey, these are things that I have control over, regardless of whatever my job is, that I can be this, and this to become that ultimate quarterback or improve as a leader in my home. Tell me what comes to mind.
well, the first word is love. I mean, you have these young people, and wherever you are in your development or your age, they have to know that you love them. That's the first thing.
Hmm.
Second thing is that I talked about honesty. That's the second thing. I think no one's kidding anybody here. Let's just shoot straight with one another and listening to each other instead of just shutting somebody down. That was another one. Um, and then I think coming to a place at the end of any discussion or any time together, coming to the place and then making sure that everyone was heard, that I would tell them, they would tell me, and that's where the honesty thing comes in. So that worked for us. I tried not to make it too complicated. Um, and I watch them deal with their own kids now, and there has been a trickle down effect. So I'm proud of that.
It's awesome. Yeah, the one thing I've learned is, man, they're watching more than we think. And
There you go.
one of the things, I was a corporate guy for 20 years in sales leadership, and then now I work for myself. That didn't mean to. That kind of happened on accident, which is another story. But um, one of the things I learned at age 41, which is the power of really being curious, which is something I'm obsessed with. And so, like, there's a curiosity framework that I got taught that now I teach called TED-based questions. It was meant for business, but I actually use it now for dads and myself, which stands for tell me, explain, describe. And so those sound like simple things, but it's actually really hard because most people put a modifier. They say, "Can you tell me more?" Which is that's a closed-ended question.
Sure.
And so I think about when dads, if there's a dad listening, you got young kids, kid comes home from school and kid goes, dad goes, "Hey, how was school, buddy?" "Good." "What'd you do?" "Nothing." "Did you have fun?" "Yep." Well, it's not the kid's fault. Those are bad questions, dad.
No, no.
But if I say, "Hey, tell me two things that made you smile at school today." "Great.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that." Well, describe what would make school better. "Not going." "Great. Well, tell me why." I mean, I could ask questions all day long, which is why the 3-year-old or 4-year-old always gets a lollipop. They keep asking.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So I'm obsessed with, and now it's funny. My son, who's 19, and um, just seeing him become more curious, and even him, I see him now talking to people and saying, "Yeah, my dad always says you got to be curious." I'm like, "Yes, it's working."
Yeah. No, you
Yeah.
did a good job. Yes, you did.
So far, we got some time left. Um, is there anything that you're involved with that we can make sure we try to link or promote or let people know more how to get involved, whether it's your church, things you're excited about, maybe make sure we vote for you and influence the voters. We got to get you in the Hall of Fame, coach.
Well, you know what? I think Bill Belichick is a lock this year. So, it's maybe next year.
Not here in Seattle. We're going
Maybe.
to disagree on that one.
Well, I thought I had a good chance last year, because I was the only coach nominated, but they had changed the rules just a little bit. So, but I'd say the number one thing that right now and where this goes, don't worry, no one has to worry about anything.
Yeah.
But there's a couple, three things that we're very involved with. We're involved with the Salvation Army because they do a lot of great things, and people people have to know about that. Some of them know, some of them don't. Then the other thing is my son-in-law, who was a pastor of our church, and then left to start his own business or a nonprofit up at Camino Island called Circlewood, and it's a combining of your faith and how we take care of the land and how we take care of what what's there for us. And I think that's a very beautiful thing that people can really understand. And the young people now that maybe don't go to church, that's not a big thing, but they do care about their environment and they care about. So it's combining two, and he's got a great work in it. He's working really hard at it. So Circlewood is one thing I'd like people to even think about.
Yeah. It's awesome. Anything else or those top two?
The top two.
All right. Coach, the last part of this journey we're going to be on, and I'm so grateful for your time, is what I take people through what's called the lightning round. And I'm going to show you that the hits, the effects of taking too many hits in college, not bong hits, but football hits. And my job is to ask you questions that might make zero sense and you hopefully get a giggle out of you. Your job is to maybe just answer them as quickly as you can.
Okay.
True or false? Me and my friend Kelly Hansen were the only two Seahawk fans in Toledo, Ohio for the 2006 Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
True. Too many yellow towels. Yes.
I was there. And it was like treated like a celebrity out there. And they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "This is my freaking childhood squad. I wouldn't miss this yeah, we had the time of our life. And I don't want to go into that because we still got, that was not a holding penalty, by the way. I'm still going to not never let that one go. If I went into your phone, what would be maybe one genre of music that might surprise people you listen to?
I listened to Josh Groban.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love his voice. I wish I could sing like he sings.
Okay.
Love his music.
What would be your one go-to karaoke song if you sang one?
Well, I used to be on a group, I used to sing in a group, Big Bop and the Choppers, when I was in high school.
Let's go.
Yeah. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, Big Bop and you remember Sha Na Na?
Oh yeah.
It was like that.
Okay.
So I was one of the Choppers, and my big hit single was Puppy Love by Paul Anka.
Okay. There we go.
We raised a lot of money for Oak Grove High School.
So cool. What's your favorite comedy movie of all time?
Burp, 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 burp. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming.
Okay. If there was, you and Kathy are going to take a vacation. Sorry, kids. Sorry, grandkids. You can't come. It's just you and Kathy. Tell me where you're taking her.
The Big Island of Hawaii,
I love it.
Walalai.
I love that area. So nice. If I was to come to your house for dinner tonight, what would we have?
We would have chicken cordon bleu,
Mm,
some rice, and some zucchini.
okay, there we go. If there was to be a book written about your life, tell me the title.
Uh, Stand up after getting knocked down.
Love it. Now, Coach, stand up after getting knocked down. Believe it or not, it's sold out. I tried to go to the airport, tried to go to Barnes and Noble, tried to go to Amazon, it's sold out. No one's got copies left. So Hollywood's found out they're going to make a movie out of it. We've now made you the casting director. I need to know who's going to star Coach Mike Holmgren in this critically acclaimed hit new movie on Netflix.
Oh, would I've told this to the kids and it gets a good laugh. It's Hemsworth.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to say like the Big Lebowski or something, like someone big, taller.
No. He's got to be more glamorous, I think.
Nice. Okay. And then last and most important question. Tell me two words that would describe Kathy.
Beautiful and sensitive.
Love it. Lightning round's over. I didn't really give you a give. I was actually going to go randomly. Actually, one last question. I will not one last question. True or false? My senior year, I made our freshman quarterbacks wear neck rolls for a day during 2 days.
False.
True. My coach was not happy. He's like, Jay Cox, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm like, Coach, safety never takes a holiday. I want to keep the guys safe.
There you go.
We joked around way too much. Coach, you ever met Coach Bo Baldwin?
No, I haven't.
No, he was kidding his coach, my coach. He was always like, get out of here. I can't wait till you graduate. But anyway, lightning round's complete. This has been an absolute honor talking to you. I'm so grateful. I wish you and your family the best for this holiday season. Stay safe. I wish the grandkids all the success, your family all the success. And like I said, just truly an honor to speak to you. I really, really appreciate it.
Honestly, thank you for having me on, and your stories are great. Really good, better than mine.
No, I don't know about that. I appreciate that. All right. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Take care, bud.